Hello buddy, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be doing a Jungle Evelynn coaching session. So special thanks to Tibbers, though, for the very generous donation. I really appreciate it. So first off, we're just going to look at sort of some of the popular runes and items for Evelynn, skill order, and then we'll watch the game itself. I'll take some notes as we watch it, and then at the very end we'll bring it all together and try to give Tibbers, though, the best 5 or 10 tips to help him improve his game. Now, I will say that, first of all, I'm not an Evelynn specialist. I'm not a jungleist specialist. Most of what I work on the channel is support. And Tibbers, though, understands this, right? And so I'm not going to be focusing mostly on like very specific jungle pathing, but I'm going to focus more on macro in the game and sort of the decisions that you should be making around what's going on in the game itself. So keep that in mind. Not an Evelynn specialist, but I've done some research. I'm going to give it my best shot. And Tibbers, though, is aware of this, and I suspect that he or she is most interested in my commentary on macro play. Okay. So before everyone comes in and says, "Oh, you don't know Evelynn, blah, blah, blah." Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'm not the greatest Evelynn player out there in the world. So just making sure that that's clear up front as we do this video. If you would like a coaching session yourself, just like this, you can email me at thestrategyprofessor@gmail.com. It's just $20. If you're a member of the channel, it's just $5. I have a link here if you want to try to become a member. Basically, you get $5 off any guides or coaching sessions that you want to get for as long as you're a member. Then you're also going to get all the other channel perks like the Discord, coming out to play with us on Tuesdays, and so on and so forth. So I think that it's a pretty good deal. If you want to try to get better at the game, if you want to improve, then those are some options for you. Okay, let's go ahead and get in here. So as far as the runes go, this is pretty standard across almost all Evelynns. It's just Electrocute, Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, Relentless Hunter. And then a lot of people will go for Sorcery, and then you just go for Celerity plus Water Walking. So just the most movement speed possible to help you get around and gank people. And as you can see, across all top level players, every single person is going to do that. So the runes are very straightforward and what you should get. There's not a lot of flexibility there, so that's nice. In terms of build order, you always go Sorcerer Boots, Runic Echo, and then after that there's a little bit of variation. Most people go Morellonomicon, not because Morello is the most cost-efficient item, because it's not, but because it has that component to it, this orb here, the Oblivion Orb, which is one of the best mid-game power spike items because it has Spell Pin on it, and Spell Pin is extremely strong on champions that have really high base damages like Evelynn. So that's why you get it, is because you want that power spike as soon as you hit 6 as fast as possible so that you can start snowballing, and this is one of the best, most cost-efficient items to do that. And then since you've already bought half of this, then you're kind of priced into just finishing Morellos. And so that's why Morellos is the most common item that people get here. Some people will also get Lichbane, which is interesting. That gives you a bit more, like, initial burst as soon as you get in there, but it's lower sustained damage over time. This also does allow you to take towers a bit faster, so that is a consideration. And then either Death Cap or Void Staff is a good, third or fourth item there. The Void Staff is going to give you really high damage, and that pairs very well with the other spell penetration that you have, because the more magic resist that you shred off of somebody, the higher the percentage benefit off of that magic resist. I have an entire video on AP scaling on the channel. If you don't watch that, I'm not going to go into that too much right here. But Death Cap is really good as well, if you can afford it. It just depends on how much gold you're getting in the game. If you want to go for Lichbane, then Death Cap becomes more attractive because Lichbane has an AP modifier on it. It does 50% of your ability power, and so it gives you a little bit of extra damage there. Some people also get Proto Belt, although it's becoming increasingly rare. That is a slightly faster power spike, but it's going to be lower damage overall. So yeah, the priority is usually Morellonomicon, and then either Lichbane or Void Staff after that is kind of the most common build path there. So we'll just kind of see how the game goes. But usually you could plan on going Sorc Boots, Oblivion Orb, and Runic Echoes as fast as possible in a lot of games. That'll give you that 33 spell pen in addition to the Runic Echo stuff. Now they are also buffing Runic next patch, I believe. That's on the PBE right now to give it 20 extra AP, which is going to be a huge boost to Evelynn. Okay, and then you always max your QWE. So you want your Hate Spike up there, and then your Charm, and then finally your Lashers. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the game here. So this is all pretty standard. There's not a lot of variation early on in the game. Later in the build, you can get some different items, but this is all very, very standard. Evelynn doesn't have a lot of different options there. That's it. Okay, this should bring us in the game itself. Now, one thing I will comment on as well, I see that you're taking Ignite here. I would highly recommend not taking Ignite, and the reason for that is you really need that flash on Evelynn to escape dangerous situations, and also to close the gap so that you can ult and blow people up. And I think that's just a bit more valuable than Ignite. Not very many junglers take Ignite. You'll see, like, Shaco take it, but it's because Shaco basically has his own flash on his Q on a low cooldown, and he's able to convert kills really early with his Ignite. Evelynn is not the greatest early game ganker because she doesn't get her invisibility until she turns 6. So it's really not going to be worth it on Evelynn. You'd much rather have that mobility, especially on a champion that doesn't have any other blinks or dashes. So you really, really need that mobility. So I know Ignite feels like it can help you secure some kills, and sometimes it might, but really Flash will help you secure a similar amount of kills, and it's also really nice defensively if you find yourself in a tough situation. So I would steer away from the Ignite. Alright, so we want red side. Then I'm pretty sure... Now, I don't think you want to fight Skarner early on. Skarner has really fast farm. And of course you want to make sure that you're present in the game. Now, I would start blue side. I feel like especially on an AP champion, you really want that blue. You also get a better leash. Invading is pretty bold. I mean, he's probably going to start red. Definitely make sure that they ward your red. If you're going to do this, I would ward here. Do not take that. Oh, starting off with a control ward, eh? Not sure about that. I feel like you might need these potions because Evelynn... I mean, she does have some healing with her passive. Like I said, I'm not an Evelynn expert, but it feels like a control ward is a bit bold this early. But I do like the vision. If you're going to put a control ward here, try to put it on the edge of this bush so that you get more vision of this area. Okay. Yeah, kite while you're firing the stuff so that you take a little bit less damage. Just don't let it reset. I feel like this is really risky. I don't know. I'm not sure the exact pathing. He might go for Scuttle here, but it was very common to go for a 3. Try to get your second buff ASAP. And you don't want him to come up on you. Yeah, see, now he sees you're here. This is going to be really bad. Especially because you don't have Flash. Well... you got it. That feels really dangerous to me, though. And top and mid didn't rotate. Like, if that Lux rotated on you over here, or if, like, Shin came down, I don't know. It feels extremely dangerous to me. It did work out very well for you, but... Like I said, it's very common for people to go buff to buff, basically, a lot of times. And... it feels like Skarner should be able to outplay you early on. Have more power. You definitely do not want to do that versus like a Zen or a Graves. I guess Skarner is fairly weak early on in the jungle. I would just back. He's gonna back and then teleport back into lane. I think you're wasting a lot of time here. Well... I don't know about that. Because you lost your buffs doing that. And you're really, really far behind in your jungle. Like, you haven't cleared any of your jungle camps. And he's going to go take your blue, potentially. He just got this. I don't know if you can see that on your map, but... this just turned blue. So he's here, and he's probably going to go get your blue. I really don't think that's worth it, because you're falling very far behind your lanes. Like, going to go take the blue is like, okay, sure. Like, you could go blue... like, maybe blue Scuttle, and then go for a clear, like, just red Raptors. You know, just go for a full clear after that. getting his flash early on, top, or I guess he doesn't have flash, so you just got his ignite early on. I mean, that's okay to go top, but I think you're spending a bit too much time only farming. Once again, I like the control ward, but you need to place it on the edge so that you get a greater vision radius. Always use your smite to finish also, just in case the other jungler's coming up. Yeah, and once again, put it on the edges. You never want to put a ward in the middle of the bush like that. You're losing a lot of real estate here. Like, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but like if you can see them as far out to like here or here, like that gives you an extra second notice, which can be a big deal if they're trying to invade you. Okay. Let her go. She's dead. Just let her go. Nah, I think this is gonna be bad for you. Okay, they didn't want to turn on you for some reason. Man, this is... It's tough for me to predict what's gonna happen in this game because, like, they're making so many mistakes. Like, they just ran right past you. Like, Shin could have just taunted you right there and probably... I mean, you don't have flash, so there's a decent chance you could have died if Shin taunts you there and they turn on you. But they just, like, walked right by you. Okay. Yeah, take these wolves. I guess. I wouldn't do the Gromp, though. I don't know. You are pretty far ahead of Skarner, but... You always want to angle, like, the person that you hit so that it hits all three people whenever you're casting the stuff. So, like, you pull these wolves and you sit here and do your spike so it hits all of them. You get that area of effect. This feels really dangerous. Especially because you have no vision here. I feel like with this style of play, that you may want to consider playing something like Elise if you want a magic damage champion. Elise is way better early on at fighting people. And then, of course, like Zen and Graves are kind of the premier fighters, but they're AD champions. I mean, this is kind of working out for you with Evelynn so far, but I don't think that she's really renowned for her early game, like, dueling power. I think they're making a lot of mistakes is what I think is going on. So if you like that style of play, just like hanging out in their jungle and camping them, I think that Elise is a pretty good option. If you like Evelynn, you know, it's fine, but just be careful because I think you're getting away with a lot of stuff here that you wouldn't be able to get away with against more competent opponents. They just spotted you. So you need to see how they're pinging you right now. You need to watch out. I wouldn't do this. There's Skarners coming at you. Lux is probably in here somewhere. I would get out of here. If you get spotted by something in the jungle and you know that you're spotted, you need to leave. Unless you have real good vision of them and you're deliberately trying to bait them. Like, if they see you, you need to leave. You need vision, I think, around here. I don't think you have enough. You know, Evelynn can't do it that early. Once again, if you're Eve, you might be able to take the dragon that early. As I feel like with your playstyle here and like what you're trying to do, I feel like Elise is going to be your something that you should definitely investigate. I feel like Eve is really like you just want to power farm and avoid the enemy junglers until you want to use that charm on the big wolf too, because you get a lot of extra damage on him. You kill the little wolf so fast that having that however long, like 4 seconds of bonus damage, really, you don't get to leverage it that much. But I feel like Eve is really, you know, you can poke your head and try a gank every now and then. She's really just a power farm to 6 type of champion, and then go try to get your kills. That's what I think Eve is. That's her thing. And I think you want to avoid a lot of other junglers early. I think. Once again, I'm not an Eve expert, but I just feel like she doesn't, like, her dueling power is not as strong as some of these other champions, like Zen, like Graves.
Rampage.
Okay, you need to stay very far away from Shen. It was going Iceborne Gauntlet top for some reason. Ugh. Disgusting. He doesn't have, I don't know. It always just is one of those things like nails on a chalkboard to me when people invest a lot of gold and mana when they're a resourceless champion, but that looks so cool. I love the look of Eve. She goes into stealth mode. You were doing really well with vision early, but I definitely need more vision. We don't know where Skarner is. Okay, that's good. Okay, it's warded. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, that's your ward. Okay. I'm used to seeing like red, meaning like bad on the ward. What'd you end up getting here? Okay, echoes. It's so dicey, like, because you had to use your smite, so if he just rolls up and takes it with a smite, or if this is warded because you didn't sweep this, like, if you want to do this, I would definitely put the control ward in the pit. And do not use your ult on that. I mean, it is a nice execute, but now that's like your main kill tool for ganking, you know? You need to try to flank with Evelynn. You don't want to walk right at him. Okay, I was writing something down. Let me get that again in a second. What's up? Alright, how did this happen here? No, yeah, you can't do that, especially without ult. Yeah, it's not, as I always say on stream, it's rarely is it worth to suicide for a kill. And the reason for that is, if something bad happens there, like if they just happen to flash away from you, or like this Ezreal actually uses his heal to save himself or his flash, then all of a sudden you die and you don't get anything for it. Isn't that right, Rory? Take a Rory break real quick. Yeah. Bring Rory in here. Is that right, Rory?
It's so funny how when she very first wakes up, she tries to get up and then she just like
falls back down.
She falls back down because she can't get it together.
She's discombobulated.
Yes.
Is that right, Rory? You're just excited to get up and have fun.
But she was happy.
But your body just won't cooperate.
She was happy.
He's happy.
Happy
okay.
baby.
Happy baby. Yeah, she's happy. Okay.
Baby, get some food.
Yeah, but don't suicide for kills. It's like here's the thing, like the best case scenario is it's a trade. Okay, you get a kill and they get a kill. So the best case scenario is it's like net neutral. But the worst case scenario is they use a summoner or an ability or just outplay you and they get a free kill. So it's like there is no upside, it's only like neutral side, and there's a lot of chance for downside. And so you really want to think of like risk reward when you're doing stuff like that. I wouldn't do this, there's so many people there. Once again, that's the same concept, right? Like you traded a kill, but if this Ezreal ever figures out how to use his F button, then you're gonna get outplayed here. So, and you gotta not be results oriented too. You have to be process oriented, which is something I talk about in a lot of videos, which means you need to make the correct play and don't think about the outcome, right? So don't think about, well, this one time I got a kill doing this, or this worked out, this time, you don't want to think about that. You want consistency, which means you need to understand the process, right? So even if sometimes you do a certain play and maybe it's like it doesn't work out ideally, as long as like the logic and reasoning and the process behind it is good, you should keep making that play. So it's kind of like in poker, you know, if you fold your hand that's a 2-7 offsuit, and then, you know, the flop comes out. I don't know if you play Texas Hold'em, but the next 3 cards come out, and it's like 7-7-2, and you would have had a full house. It's still correct to fold that 2-7, right? Even though the results would have looked amazing, it's still correct to fold that, because you can't work on what ifs. You have to work on the knowledge that you know. So anyways, so that's twice that you traded kills. Also, when you do that, it takes you off the map. And if you are the all-star, then, you know, if you're the person who deserves to climb in rank, then you don't want to be off the map, right? You need to be on the map doing productive things. So you need to think of yourself as more valuable than the average player in the game. Ooh. Ugh. Okay, it didn't reset. You gotta get that eye. Oh. This is so dangerous. Like, if this is warded in Lux, like, just lasers over here, or Skarner just walks by here to go get the scuttle or something, like... Once again, I think you would really love Evelynn. Or not Evelynn, keep mixing them up. Elise, if you want to do these things. Like, you're playing Evelynn like she's Elise. Because Elise is very good at taking objectives, because she can have the little spiders tank for her. And she's very good at invading. And just, like, punishing people early. And that's just not who Evelynn is, I don't think. Okay, that was pretty creative and interesting. Go kill him! There you go. That was creative. So yeah, like, you got the dragon, you got the herald, but it's so dangerous. And you're using your ult also to try to execute the monsters, and I just don't think that's great. So yes, the results have worked out very well. You're getting 2 towers off of this before you got the dragon cleanly. That's good. But I suspect that in other games, when you try to do these things, it's not gonna have such a happy ending. You know, at least half the time. The main thing about climbing is you need to be consistent. You need to figure out something that just works consistently in a lot of games and do that. I would really go Sorcerer Boots too. Sorc Boots, you really want that extra damage instead of the Mobility Boots. It's so big. The extra spell penetration is so huge on Evelynn. And she's not really like a prolific, like, run around and gank. Once again, that's an Elise kind of thing. Like, she, you know, her biggest chances are usually when she has her ult up. No, don't use that ult. You gotta work on this ult usage. You really don't want to use it just to, like, close the gap on people that often. I know it's cool to do that, but... it's working out, you know, you got the kill there, but you haven't used this ult on a person yet, I don't think. You've used it 2 ults on monsters, then you used it right there just to jump over his wall. Let him go, let him go. Just let him go, just leave. Dragon's up. I would go tell Zaya to go get Dragon. Go get Dragon with you. No, guys, these guys don't matter. Yeah, you're getting caught up. It's getting old clowny. No, just... No, man. Come on, man. No, just forget. Just go away from all the clowny stuff and just go down and just get the dragon. Or, like, go push a wave or something. Okay.
Red team double kill. Blue team's turret has been
Alright. Okay. The old Yasuo support. Yeah, get this. I have pretty good vision. We've got mid pushed up. So yeah, Skarner's dead. It's an ace. You need to, yeah, ping people to come help you. I mean, Nidalee's also okay at these things, but I just feel like Evelynn's a lot better than, or Elisa's a lot better than Nidalee at kind of the, and a bit easier to play than the kind of in-your-face Nidalee action. You don't know how many people. I wouldn't. Well, alright. I guess Zoe's gonna blow them up. Just take these raptors, man. I don't know if you want to mess with him. He doesn't have a lot of magic resist, but his items are kind of goofy. But, he still is Shin. I think you're spending a lot of time ganking, which is nice, but you also need to farm. Like, your camps have been up for a long time. At least take their camps. Like, you're just spending a lot of time walking around. Remember that your ult is an execute, so the lower they are, the more damage it does. So you want to try to hold that until they are low. You don't want to use it on a full health target. Okay, yeah, just, let's go, yeah, get their red, just farm stuff while you wait on them to push that up. Let's go push up middle. I think they're gonna spawn before. Let's go push middle. That's so much gold right there and experience. I guess getting the buff is fine, but I would venture to say this is probably more gold and experience. That's like a wave and a half. That's 2 cannon minions that are gonna die to this tower. I'm almost certain that's more than blue. Like, you don't really need the mana right now. Yeah, I would have just rotated up here. So, Sadie, what is it? Yeah, it's just like sitting in the hallway staring me down. She wants food, that's what it is. Splitting's fine, so you're going Witchbane. Alright, I mean that's okay. That does help you with the split push. And I think he's probably, yeah, you're probably dead. Yeah, you gotta watch those timers, and then when they appear, you've gotta get out of there. You gotta remember that Skarner's really fast. Definitely getting clowny. clowny. Yeah, you need to go over to Baron. Don't worry about. I think you're putting too much priority on these buffs. Like, the buffs really don't matter that much at this point in the game. Like, they're okay, but, like, Baron is way more important. Like, if you just show up over here and just stall them, just put your W on them and just run around, like, I think you can stall them out. Janna's just, like, randomly pushing bottom. Yeah, I think that was a pretty big mistake. If you would have just gone over here and just put the heart on them, like, it would scare them enough, probably, to where they would, Nice. Alright. Once again, that looks great. That worked out really, really well because they just didn't have enough damage. They got it low. They didn't have any pink wards to see you coming. So, it looks really nice. But, like, if you know they're going to go to Baron, you need to just run over there and just stall. Just, like, drop wards on them. Put your W on them. You probably need to get a Quicksilver Sash at this point, too. I think after your second items, like once you get Runic and Lichbane, if you're against a Skarner, you need to get a Quicksilver Sash. I know it sucks to buy that item, it's just the Skarner tax, but it makes him worthless, pretty much, against you. Can also help you out if you get Lux Binded or Shin Taunted, like, it's a good item. Janna. Needlessly large Rod Morello, I love it. Okay, they quit. Alright. Alright, so let's go over the top things. So, you did very well that game. You know, you had a bunch, you got Dragon, you got Rift. Of course, you went in and stole the Baron, got a Quadra. You got a lot of really good picks. So, that's good. Everything worked out. Everything did very well this game. But, of course, you know, if you're asking for a coaching session, I assume you're wanting, you know, a little bit more than just a pat on the back, right? You're wanting to know how to actually improve your game a little bit so you can get those consistent results a lot more often. And so, that's what we're going to work on here. So, yes, the results were very good in this game. But I think that, you know, there were definitely some things that could potentially come back to bite you in other games. So you don't want to, like, fall into bad habits because you get a couple of good games doing something. You want to make sure that it's something that can last, where you'll do very well in a lot of different games, right? And so that's what we're going to work on here. Okay, so number one, I know this is a little bit different. So I'm going to, you know, obviously give you the best commentary that I can for Evelynn, but I think that just watching how you like to play in this replay, which is, you know, go after those objectives early, the dragons, you know, and the Rift Herald, and then be in their face, stealing their buffs, like warding up their jungle, trying to fight them in their jungle. I think that Elise is a much, much better match for that style of play. Evelynn, like I said, from what I understand, she's not as good of an early game duelist. Like, what she wants to do is power farm the jungle. She has really good farm with her Q. Power farm the jungle, and then once she hits level 6, then go around, leverage that invisibility, and try to make plays and execute enemies, you know, with her R. So that's the thing. Whereas Elise, on the other hand, is extremely strong early on because of those spiders. So she has really good clear, and she has very good ganks with her webbing, and she's very good at staying healthy in the jungle as she clears because of the spiders. That means that she's going to be much better, like, suited to dueling. early on. Now, I don't know exactly how Elise stacks up against Zen or Graves. Like, some of those AD skirmishers are still going to be better. Zen, Graves, Kha'Zix, all of these things are going to be better at fighting you early on in the jungle, probably. So that's probably why we're not seeing a lot of Elise. But that is kind of the play style that you're playing there. I think Elise would match it better. So just consider that. If you've ever played Elise, or if you have enough, blue essence or whatever to buy her, give her a whirl. I think you might like her. But as far as Evelynn goes, let's work on Evelynn a little bit here. So be a bit more careful on those invades. Like, it got very, very close a lot of times when you were fighting that Skarner. And a lot of it, the mid laner could have rotated for them. The jungler could have rotated. Just keep in mind that it's easier for the enemy to rotate to their own jungle than it is for your allies to rotate into that same jungle. So if you're going to invade like that, you need to watch the lanes and make sure they're pushed up. So you need to make sure that top lane and mid lane are pushed in. You need to tell them that too, especially, I think you said this is Bronze. In the email, you need to tell them that. You need to say, hey, I'm going to invade. Can you push your lanes early and be ready to help me? If the jungler comes, just type something like that early on. Just say, push your lanes, be ready to help, please. That kind of thing. Because a lot of people, especially in Bronze, they won't even think about that. They're just focused on only their lane, just only their, specific matchups. They're not thinking strategically a lot of the times. Not all Bronze people. But unfortunately, many of them are so focused on just trying to last hit and just their interactions with their lane opponent. They're just not looking at the mini-map. They're definitely not thinking of the grander strategy and positioning a lot of times in the laning phase in terms of jungle invades and rotations and things like that. So you're going to have to tell them that stuff. Like, hey, push up, help me invade. And you also need to take stock and look at your lanes and just say, are they pushed up? Do we have the kind of lane that can push up, or are they going to get pushed in? Because if they have lanes that are going to push into you, that are going to push into your allies, then you definitely don't want to invade. So just be a little more cautious with the invade, and then once you get the buff, I would get out of there as Evelynn, really. It's not worth risking a Gromp, because they're going to, they could collapse and kill you. So I think sneaking the blue is kind of cheeky. It's interesting, but I would grab that blue, and then maybe the scuttle, and then just rotate over and grab your red, and then rotate down and get your blue. You just want to make sure you secure all three of those buffs. If you can. You could maybe do the raptors on the way, but I would just go into full clear mode. Like, once you take that blue, go grab scuttle. You can go grab red, raptors, wolves, blue, gromp, back, buy something, and then get back in the rotation. So I would just try to farm it out early. I mean, if you want to poke your head top and try to make a gank, you can do that, but keep in mind that that's going to let them know that you stole that blue, and, depending on what Skarner's doing, he might rotate over and take your blue. So Skarner was going top, but if he was doing raptors, if he was going like red, raptor, scuttle, or something like that, then he might take your blue if he sees you top, right? So you never want to give the enemy jungle intel as to where you are if you don't have to. So it's hard to kill Shin top early on because Mundo's not going to have very much CC. And Shin's really tanky, and he has a very good escape. So I would have just gone into clear mode after that. But just be careful whenever you invade like that. It felt like you weren't aware of the danger that they could collapse and kill you very easily with that. So, anyways. Okay, what else do we have here? Similarly, you want to be careful with solo objectives. So if you're trying to take Rift or you're trying to take Dragon by yourself, that can be very dangerous, especially if you're using your smite early just to heal. Super dangerous. If Skarner runs up on you and there's like 10% left, then that's going to be really bad. I don't think either time you put a pink ward in the pit itself, in the Rift Herald pit or the Dragon pit. And so if they saw you, that Skarner could just blast plan over or flash in and just take it from you. Because if he's paying attention, if it's warded, he's going to see you use your smite, and he's going to know that you can't smite it. And then don't use your ultimate to execute the objectives. Like, you can, but it's a pretty long cooldown early on. I think it's like 140 seconds or something early. And you want to make sure that you're using that to actually kill an enemy. Every time that's up, you need to get a kill on the map. So, once again, both of those worked out. You got the objectives, great. But Skarner didn't show up. Once again, they didn't rotate. Their support didn't ward that dragon. the first time was actually really scary. I think you had to back up the first time that you tried it. So, you know, just farm more. Like, that's another thing that I wrote down here. Especially on a champion like Evelynn, who farms really, really well, especially when she has blue buff. Like, you can farm those raptors, you can farm wolves, golems, all of those you can do really quickly because you have very good area of effect damage. So I would just farm more. Like, getting the objectives is good, going for the ganks is good, but don't forget that you can also just, like, power farm, as Evelynn's pretty good at farming. So you don't want your camps to just be sitting there doing nothing. And on some of these ganks, especially that Shin top, like, you tried to gank him and you sat in the bush for like a good 20 or 30 seconds, and then you only ended up trading kills. And so that was like probably close to, you know, 30 seconds to a minute of your time. Now, if you include dying and having to walk back into the jungle, it's probably a minute and a half of your time, and you could almost full clear the jungle in a minute and a half. So it's like, okay, you can trade kills top, or you can get every single camp in your jungle and gain a couple of levels and get free gold that they don't get anything back for that. So you'd probably get a similar amount of gold, but you'd have way more experience and you wouldn't give anything back to them. Now, this worked out okay the couple of times you hit this bottom, but try not to suicide going for kills. I know it seems like, you know, well, if I get this gold, I can carry hard, and, you know, it doesn't matter if they get the gold. But like I said, the risk-reward profile just doesn't make sense a lot of times for that style of play. Because if they do anything, like if that Ezreal used his heal either time, then he would have lived, or the other person she killed would have lived. But he never used his heal. So it's like the worst case scenario is you give them a free kill. The best case scenario is you both get a kill. So there is no good outcome. There's a neutral outcome and a bad outcome. Like, what you want ideally when you're doing trades or when you're like trying to think about decisions is the best is good outcome. So like no matter what happens, it's good. So like a situation where you're split pushing and either they come down to try to stop you and your team gets a Baron, or they don't come down and stop you and you get a tower. Like, that's a good scenario. So split pushing, if it done properly, sets up for a good scenario. Or, you know, there might be one that's like a good neutral scenario where it's like, okay, I have a really good chance to kill this person. If I kill them and get away, that's great. If I kill them and trade, then that's neutral, right? So it's like very unlikely that you're going to die without killing them. But anyways, try not to do these things where it's going to be a suicide mission to get these kills, like running into 3 people or diving under tower and things like that. You can do more of those tower dive type of aggression plays if you have your ult. But if you're using ult on objectives and things like that, then you're not going to be able to make those plays that often. So go for the safer, like more predictable, solid plays than the big flashy plays. I think that's what holds a lot of people back is people go for the plays. Like, you go for the play instead of go for the win. And usually going for like the more solid, dependable play is going to give you more wins. Now, this didn't happen very often. You did have good objective control throughout a lot of the game, but there was one time when you were running around chasing people top lane around the top river instead of rotating down to get the Infernal Dragon or like pushing a lane. So I guess maybe because you were focusing on objectives, but I think sometimes you just get caught up in the fiesta. You know, people are all running around and you're trying to get kills when in fact you could have just been pushing lanes or getting dragons or something like that. So just try not to chase those kills as much. Prioritize the farm. So deprioritize buffs a little bit more. You know, the prime example was near the end where you went for blue buff instead of trying to stall the Baron. It did end up with a really good quadra kill, so that was awesome. That worked out very well, but a lot of times that may not work out as well. If they had just a little bit more damage, they maybe could have killed it before you got over there. So, and there were a couple other times where I saw you like go and try to get a blue buff instead of pushing a lane or pressuring a tower or something like that. So the buffs really don't matter that much past 20 minutes. Like, they're nice, but you want to make sure that you're getting other stuff done on the map as well, because it really doesn't advance your map position that much. So work on like your items and your summoners a bit more. I would go for Flash and Sork boots definitely early on, and I would highly consider getting the Morello Nomicon or at least the Oblivion Orb early. Lichbane's good. It does give you that extra burst, so there's definitely an argument for Lichbane, but that's really if you are like very far ahead, you can get that Lichbane. But I feel like Morello is going to give you probably more consistent clear, especially in the jungle. It's just more damage, more clear, like more sustained damage because you have that spell pin. It also makes you a little bit tankier. So don't underestimate that Morello also gives you 300 health, which is very nice for survivability. So I would probably go for Morello. As I said, that's what most people get. Some people do get Lichbane pretty quickly, but people will go for that Morello more often than not. And the reason is because it has the Oblivion Orb, and it gives you a really nice power spike when you get Runic, plus Sork Boots, plus Oblivion Orb. As you can see, pretty much nobody goes Mobility Boots. Like, you really only want that on, a lot of times, like tank junglers or AD junglers that don't have any sort of, that don't want the tankiness. But on most AP, very high damage junglers, you want those Sork Boots, because that's 18 spell pin is a lot of damage. It's a lot. So you really want to make sure that you keep up with that. I'm trying to remember what the stat value is on Sork Boots. Pretty high. Yeah, you get 18 magic pins. So that's 560 pin value. So that's pretty good. So, I mean, it's like at face value, it's 1,100 gold. Whereas if you go for more mobility boots, you know, you're paying 900 gold for this. So the Sork Boots is like you get its face value at all times. So you're paying 1,100 gold, you're getting 1,100 gold worth of stats, right? So you're getting the spell pin and you're getting a movement speed. With these mobility boots, yeah, it's nice. You get 1380 movement speed out of combat, but when you're in combat, then you're only getting 300 value. So it's very, very inefficient in combat. And with Eve, like, a lot of people who get mobility boots, they go in and they do their thing, like, immediately. Like, they have some kind of crowd control and the fight's over quickly. Like, with Evelynn, a lot of times you need to stick to people. So you need to be able to, like, chase them down with more Qs, you know, and do more damage to them. And you need to be able to run away from stuff as well, sometimes as Evelynn, because a lot of times you don't want to be fighting the enemy jungler, and if you're in a fight, you need to try to get away. So you're going to be too slow to get away in that circumstance. And this doesn't add any damage. Like, it's just movement. Whereas Sorcerer Boots add a tremendous amount of extra damage early on. So I would almost always go Sorcerer Boots, which is pretty much backed up by what everybody's doing here. Like, there's that, like this one person, you know, went mobility boots, but anyways, I think that's pretty solid as far as we talked about. So yeah, the biggest thing is, like, I think you need to, if you're going to play Evelynn, you need to play to farm a little bit more if you want to steal a cheeky buff or something every now and then. But you really need to try to play to farm to 6. And just, you know, if you have to, you can try to sneak in, you know, and maybe get a gank off if someone's really overextended. But by and large, you just need to power farm to 6. Once you get that stealth, then you need to start getting in, going for those flanks, and ganking those lanes. So that's really what I would focus on, is Evelynn's a much more farm-oriented jungler. If you like that style of play where you want to invade, be in their face, you know, shut down the enemy jungler, do a bunch of really powerful early game ganks, I would highly consider Elise is probably the best AP support for that. Nidalee is good as well. Nidalee's a lot harder to play. She doesn't have as much CC. She falls off harder late game. Elise is still very useful late game because she's got that web, which is very nice for pick comps. So if you're sitting there sieging, she's also ranged, so she can siege down towers. If you're sitting there sieging and you hit somebody with that web, that's really good. Or if, like, you have a Morgana on your team and she binds somebody and you chain that together with the web, she's got a really nice CC chain that she can do later on. And she's very good at diving as well, because you can always repel out. So I highly suspect Elise might be your cup of tea if you like that style of play. So think about it. But if you do want to keep Evelynn, consider, you know, consider power farming a bit more. Be careful on those invades, especially against, like, Zen, Graves, Kha'Zix. Most of the AD early fighters are going to be able to beat you up. Try not to suicide for those kills. Prioritize that farm. And then just work on those objectives even more than you already are. And be a bit safer with vision when you're trying to take them. But that's going to be it. So awesome game. I'm just trying to give you, you know, a little bit of advice for more consistency. Hopefully this will help you climb out of bronze a little bit. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much, Tiberzo. Really appreciate it. Anyone else out there watching, once again, if you want to set up a coaching session, just email me at thestratchprofessor@gmail.com right here. I'm more than happy to set one of those up for you. It's just $20 for general population, $15 if you want to be a member of the channel. And that's going to be it. So thank you very much. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.